Check-in. I was traveling through the countryside to take a break from my busy life and work schedule. I had always been drawn to the countryside for its tranquility and peacefulness, away from the hustle and bustle of the city. As I drove along the winding roads, admiring the lush greenery and rolling hills, I realized it was getting late and I needed to find a place to stay for the night. About half an hour later, I came across an old hotel that looked like it had been abandoned for years. But, to my surprise, there was a flickering neon sign that read vacancy in the window. I decided to give it a chance, thinking it would be a unique experience to stay in such an old century-style hotel, which actually felt quite eerie. As I walked into the lobby, I was struck by the musty smell and the sound of my footsteps echoing off the walls. The receptionist, a middle-aged woman with a severe expression, as if something was troubling her, checked me in and handed me the key to my room. I felt strange as it was quiet and there seemed to be no one else around. I made my way up the creaky staircase to my floor, my tiredness setting in from the long drive. I could feel the weight of my bags dragging me down. As I walked down the dimly lit hallway, I noticed the wallpaper was peeling off the walls and the carpet was stained and worn. The door to my room was ajar, and I hesitated for a moment before pushing it open. The room was freezing cold, which appeared to be from a window near the bed, the cool breeze from the night's air filling the room. I shivered as I made my way over to the window to try and close it. That's when I saw him, a man staring at me from the street below. He was dressed in old-fashioned clothing and had a sinister look on his face. I quickly closed the window and locked it, feeling a wave of fear wash over me. Was he staring at me or admiring the rustic architecture of the hotel? Why is he out here alone? What's with the creepy look on his face? My mind started to race. I tried to calm myself down by turning on the TV, but there was only static on the screen. As I lay down on the bed, I heard strange noises coming from the walls. Scratching and tapping that seemed to be getting louder and closer. I was too afraid to leave my room, but I knew I couldn't stay there for much longer. The scratching and tapping sounds continued to grow louder and more intense, causing me to feel like something was moving inside the walls. It was then I noticed a small camera placed on the nightstand beside me as I was panning the room, trying to understand where the sounds were coming from. The room was dimly lit. Only the bedside lights and static from the TV were on, so the camera was easily missed if you weren't looking hard enough. I had no idea how long it had been there, why it was there, or who had placed it there. Panic set in, and I quickly got up to leave the room. But as soon as I stepped out into the hallway, I found myself face to face with the receptionist. She stood there silently, with a blank expression on her face. I told her about the camera, hoping she could explain it, but her reaction was odd. She just stared at me for a moment before her eyes widened in a look of terror. She whispered with a frightened tone, "You need to leave. This place is not safe." Before I could ask any questions, she rushed off with her shoulders hunched, like she was in a hurry, almost as if she didn't want to be seen. She disappeared down the stairs, and I was left alone, feeling more frightened than before. As I made my way back to my room, I heard a faint whispering sound. It was coming from the wall beside me, and I could make out the words, "Get out," being repeated over and over again. I grabbed my bags and headed for the exit, but as I approached the lobby, I saw something that made my hair on my skin rise, as if my body was alerting me of danger. The man from the street outside was now standing behind the reception desk, staring straight at me with a menacing grin on his face. Without thinking, I turned and ran out of the hotel as fast as I could. As I made my way back to my car, keys shaking in my hands from the fear and adrenaline moving through my body, I looked back at the hotel and saw the flickering neon sign go out. I drove away from the hotel as fast as I could. It wasn't until several days later, when I was safely back home, that I dared to look up the hotel online. To my shock, I discovered that the hotel had closed down almost 2 years ago, and that the building had been abandoned ever since. There was no record of anyone renting rooms there. I couldn't believe what I was reading. I started having nightmares, and I found myself constantly looking over my shoulder, afraid that the man from the hotel would somehow find me. Until a few weeks later, I saw a report. The hotel was discovered to be the base of a small sect, a group of people who had used it for their meetings and unethical rituals. The news also said that the sect was trying to find unsuspecting people, like me, whom they were filming against their will. The news report showed footage of police officers entering the hotel, guns drawn, as they arrested the members of the cult. As I watched the footage, I couldn't help think how close I was to losing my life that night. I took comfort in knowing the police had taken them down. However, it was then that I realized the receptionist was probably trying to help me that night when she told me I had to leave. I hope she is okay. I wonder what happened to her.